Hello everyone and happy Saturday to you all. Welcome back to another episode of the Crafternoon Box for Papercrafting Australia. We're going to be working from the March box today and doing our first tutorial for the month. We're going to be making a stenciled gatefold card. So we're going to be using stencils to create some beautiful backgrounds and then using those on a gatefold card. So that should be heaps of fun for everyone today. So hopefully you've got your boxes ready. For those of you who have not seen our boxes before, this is the, Crafternoon Box. This is the March version. So this one, we kind of change the label every month for everybody. And it's full of lots of little goodies, cardstock. We've got sentiment sheets. There is washi tape this month. It's so good. It matches with our Papercrafting Australia patterned papers that I designed. That's our little bundle of papers in there. Everything's themed around pastels and rainbows this month, so it's going to be heaps of fun. We've also got in there this month some little shaker elements with little Easter egg shapes on them. So yeah, I hope you enjoy what has come in the boxes today. If you weren't lucky enough to get in on time and get a box secured, some of the bits and pieces that I go through today will be available in our store, and I'll kind of mention those as we go along. I'll get through the tutorial that we're going to do today, and then I'll share with you the project that we're going to make in episode 2 for March, and I'll also share with you a little secret about what colour we're going to be basing things around on in the May box, because April is already sold, done, dusted, and in the process of having all its bits and pieces put together and packed. So I'm really looking forward to kind of getting things out a little bit faster and being able to preview things a little bit further in advance for you all. So welcome to everybody who is joining us on Facebook and YouTube. I feel a little bit like the lady on Romper Room when I get to this section where I get to see who's joining us today. So we've got Sharon, that's my mum. Hello, mum. Tony Bensley's in the house. Hello, Tony. So excited. I know you're excited. Margaret Kay. Hey, Margaret. How are you? And how is everything in Canada? It must be a really weird time for you at the moment. Like, I don't know what time of day it is. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Sharon says, this box is amazing. So excited when I opened it. Yes, it has been a really exciting box for everybody. Everyone's been looking forward to this. I know purple is a very popular color with all of you, as are rainbow colors, because it can be used for so many different people with lots of different colors in there. So yeah, it's a very exciting one. I was really proud of this one and really happy to put it all together. 10 p.m. Friday night in Canada. So that's actually not such a bad time, Margaret. That's really good. But I know your March box won't have arrived with you yet, so I'm sorry, and I hope you're still enjoying your February box. I am going to try and get your April box out to you a little bit ahead of everybody else's, just so that with the travel time it takes to get over there, you may, fingers crossed, have it there in time to start the month with us for April. So I'm hoping I can get that to happen. We've got some stock is ordered. It's already on its way, so that should all be here. I've actually got a big box of stuff here that I haven't opened yet and bits and pieces on top. Don't mind my studio at the moment. It's a bit of a bomb site. I'll do a bit of cleaning up once I calm down from packing boxes last week and getting March out. So yeah, what I think we should do is probably get things underway. So I'll show you a few bits and pieces that I've got on my workspace today. So this is the gatefold card that we are going to be making today. So it is, you'll notice there's some stenciling in the background on the white cardstock that I've got there, and we're using pinks and purples in this lovely one. We've got a belly band which slides up and down, and once that actually slides all the way off, this is your gatefold action. So it's just like opening the driveway gates and opening your card and having a nice little section in the middle to write on. So I've just popped a little stamp in there today. We're going to work on a few other bits and pieces. You are more than welcome to decorate the insides of your little gatefolds. It's completely up to you, but I just think that's such a cute little card that you can kind of whip up fairly quickly. And you know, once you've got the dimensions for these, you can make a bunch of them. They do make them down to the same, these end up the same size to be able to fit into a Gina K envelope. So that's an A2 American size. So you're looking at 5.5 by 4.25, I believe. So yeah, you'll be able to fit those into a standard envelope. So they're lots of fun. Instead of just scoring your card in half, you just put 2 scores in, and it gives you that little cute little gate action. So let's get on with having a look at what bits and pieces I've got. I'm just going to pop that off camera there, in the kits that we're going to use today. Now, it's totally up to you which coloured cardstocks you use. Today I'm going to use, just to match what I've done in this one, and I find that it matches, these ones kind of match the ink pads that we're going to be using. So that is Orchid and Unicorn. So you'll find that you have a little bit lighter purple one in your kit as well. That is Wisteria. So if you're wanting to match these ones, it's the 2 darker purples, and one of them, the unicorn colour, is a little bit more pink than purple. In your kits, you will also have Lemonade and Dewdrop coloured cardstock. So Lemonade being the yellow cardstock, Dewdrop is your green one, and you've got a few sheets of the white cardstock and some black as well. So I'm not using black today, just the white, Unicorn and Orchid, but it's up to you which colours that you want to use. You might have a particular item that you want to, or particular person that you're trying to target this project to. Now what I've also grabbed, and you will all have a little bit of a variety of these are the really rainbow sentiments from Paper Rose in South Australia. So as you can see, because I've been making samples already, I've got bits and pieces cut everywhere, but there's a whole range of different colours. You will have more of these type of strips in your kit. I'm not using those today, so I've just left that sheet out for the moment. But you've got kind of like these ticket stub kind of style, and these big square blocks. And yeah, so I'm going to kind of use a combination of those today. Totally up to you. You can customize your belly band and the little block that goes on the front to help hold it all together, and put whatever you would like on those. We've got the Celebrations sentiment stamps from Couture Creations. So we couldn't get the birthday ones when we went to order. They had sold out completely. So thankfully they had these ones. So we'll get back to the birthday ones at some point once they're back in stock. But we've got Celebrations, which I thought was also a really good stamp set to have. I'm just going to take it out of the pack because there's too much plastic and shine going on there for me at the moment. You still get a little bit of no, Sharon, some of you won't have the big block square ones, so you'll have more of the ticket style. It's just about how we break up the packs, because you obviously get a lot more in a full pack of the Paper Rose sentiments, and we sort of share those out amongst Card of the Month kit and the Crafternoon box. So I'll go through an option that doesn't use the big block today, and that should hopefully give anyone who hasn't got the big blocks a bit of an option as to what they can put on. Hi Deb, thanks for joining us. Good to have you. So the stamps that we've got: Time for a Party, Celebration, You're Invited, Let's Party, Good Times, Time to Party, Celebrate, Cocktails, Happy, To a Day, and Together. So there's lots of little combinations you can do. So You're Invited to a Party, Good Times Together, Happy Day, all kinds of things. So you can mix and match them up. These ones up here as well: Time for Art and Party are separated, so you can use Time for a Celebration, Let's Celebrate, Let's Party. So lots of different combos that you'll be able to do with those. We've got our Paper Rose Stars and Spots stencil, and this is just, look, you'll notice that mine's got a bit of marking on it already because I've obviously been using it. Don't panic. This is clean. I've cleaned this off since I was playing with it, making the examples. You will always get a little bit of staining on your stencils, but these stencils from Paper Rose are super thick. So they're a lot more durable. They take a little bit more of a beating, and you'll find that you'll have less little, when you've got little intricate cuts and you start kind of stenciling a lot, you'll find that these kind of do bend up in the thinner models, but the Paper Rose ones, I've not found any issues with those at all. So that's our Stars and Spots stencil. So great for young people, old people. I can really see not just putting ink through it, but putting embossing ink on it, and being able to emboss some gold or silver stars and circles and things like that, it would be really great on some darker cardstock. So that might come back another time. I've got a couple of acrylic blocks just for my stamping and also for just holding things down while it's being glued. We've got our lilac coloured rhinestones from Papercraft. It is lilac, yep. And we've got our Gina K Designs Wild Lilac. That's what I was double checking. Which one's the one that says wild at the start? So Gina K Designs ink. You may or may not have the small ink cube or the larger ink pad, just depending on your preference when you purchased your Crafternoon subscription. We've also got, yours will be clean, they'll have white tops on the top. Mine have obviously been used. So these are our sponge daubers, our little ink daubers, which we're going to use. I'll show you how to use those with our stenciling today. Now, because we've got the pink and purple theme going on, you don't have to, but I've brought in last month's Passionate Pink ink cube. Came out in the February Crafternoon box. So if you've got a variety of colours, please feel free to use them. You are not limited to what we're using in the kit. I want you to be creative, mix and match, and have a good time. So that is what we're going to be. Just got to clear some space so that I've got room to work, because we do have to cut down some cardstock so that we've got our bases. Now, I made a unicorn base for my example one, so I'm going to do this one in Orchid as my base. So to make the base, I'll go through and we'll do all of the card cuts first, and then we'll do some scoring, and then we'll get to assembling. So the base cardstock that you're going to cut down is 8.5 inches long by 5.5 high. So I'm just going to cut this one down. Oops, I've got things underneath here. Keep these little scrappy bits, you're going to need those. So I've got 8.5 and trimming down to 5.5. So that's my card base. Then with another coloured piece of cardstock, we are going to cut just a small section off. And I'm going to cut it long ways because we're needing a piece that is 9 3/8 by 1.5 inches. So I'm just going to take 1.5 inches off the side of this longer piece because I know that I'll be able to use the length much better with these pieces. So yeah, I agree, Tony. These colours do look good together. So it's Unicorn and Orchid, if anyone is thinking. So I've got my 1.5 inch wide strip, and I'm going to cut that down to 9 3/8. Get it choppy. And the box that I had over my shoulder before, that I said I haven't unpacked yet, is actually super exciting because it is the final colours from Papercraft for me to now have every single colour of Papercraft weave cardstock in stock in the store. So once I unpack that, that will be going into the stock, and you'll be able to order any colour that you like. They've had a few out of stocks for a while, and we're finally getting it all back together. So before I go on to the white, with your smaller offcut that you've got here, we're going to cut a block. Now, I'm not going to cut necessarily my one yet because this will be the dimensions to fit this kind of assembly. So if you can make this any size, any shape you want. So even if you wanted to do a circle, or you've got a love heart die or something like that you wanted to cut a different shape, you can absolutely cut that down. So the dimensions for this block that I made, which holds one of those square blocks and one of the ticket stubs, is 3 inches tall by 2.25 inches wide. So if you're going to make that and you want to make the most of your cardstock, I'd say cut it out of this, but you might have some other coloured cardstock or scrappy bits around that you want to cut that down. But I'm going to cut mine down a little bit later once I work out exactly how I'm going to assemble or what I'm going to put on the front of mine. So I'm going to grab some white cardstock. So this again, this is the smooth Kaiser Craft. So they have a white in the smooth, and they have in the weave coloured cardstock, it's called snow. So you'll always know the difference. One's called white, it's smooth. Snow is rippled, it has the effect on it. And I'm going to cut these pieces down. One piece I'm going to cut to 5 inches by 5 1/4 inches. So I know that these sections are at least 6 inches deep that I've cut for you guys. So I'm just going to cut a 5-inch piece off here, and then I'm going to cut that to 5 1/4 so that I'm only wasting probably just a tiny little strip off the edge there. So this is our stencil panel that we're going to be stenciling on. That's the 5 by 5 1/4. And then we need one other piece, which will be what am I looking at? No, 5. This one will be 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So again, I'm going to cut my, what am I best to do here? 5 1/4. Excellent. So I'm just going to turn that and cut my 4 inches here. So that I've got a decent chunk, that's a scrap. And then 5 1/4 inches this way. Another tiny little scrap there. So this will be the panel that we use to pop inside the card for you to write on, stamp on, whatever you would like. Now I'm just going to cut myself one extra piece of the 5 by 5 1/4 stencil panel, because I want to show you 2 different stencil techniques today. And one, I'm going to use a piece of tools that you may or may not have floating around in your craft room. Okay, so I'm going to leave that little piece here because I'm going to need to cut a piece of that out later on. Put it off here. So next I'm going to take my scoreboard, and if you haven't got a scoreboard, feel free to use a pencil and a ruler and a bone folder, and score them on a soft cutting mat, just with a little bit of soft foam underneath, so that you can get an indentation in your card. So I'm just going to take the larger piece of card. So this is our card base, 8 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches high. I'm going to pop that into my scoreboard with the weave pattern side up. That's going to be the outside of my card. And we're going to, I'm not going to use a bone folder on this. I'm going to use my score tool that comes with my scoreboard. And we're going to score 2 1/8 of an inch in from each edge. So I'm just going to go 2 1/8 here and use the thicker end. I'm doing this because I want the raised section of the scoring to be on the inside of the card, because that's the section that's going to fold in. And to get the 2 1/8 on the other end without having to kind of measure back from the end of here, I'll just flip my cardstock around and I'll just measure 2 1/8 from this end and give that a score. So you've got the 2 score lines there. You'll flip that over, and you'll fold, because this is the raised part of the scoring, you'll fold that in and just burnish your edges so that makes your gatefold. Pretty simple, pretty cute. Love it. I'll burnish that in just a moment. Then I'm going to take the opposite piece of the cardstock that I had. So this is the this color is unicorn, and this is for the belly band that goes around the middle of the card. So for that, that's your 9 1/2 or 9 3/8 inches long piece of cardstock by 1 1/2 inches high. And we're going to score this 2 1/2 inches from the end. And again, I'm putting the weave cardstock facing up so that when I score this at 2 1/2 inches, the side that it's going to fold into is going to go under. Flip it around so that I can again score 2 1/2 inches from that other end, and we're good to go. So far so good, everybody. Check over on our Facebook peeps. Linda Hums on Facebook. Hello, Linda. Okay, is it raining on your side of Melbourne, Linda? It's raining on our side, so maybe you're going to get it shortly. Rain often means that our internet drops out at some point, so it normally drops out just as the rain starts, and then it kind of comes good again. But I don't know if it dropped out before I started my stream. Fingers crossed that's what it did. But yeah, that's what's happening here. So I've got my weave colour, weave side facing up. I'm just going to flip that over and just bend these over, give them a little bit of a burnish. Same with my other side. Burnish that down. So that belly band will be ready once we've got our panels done so that we can glue that all together and assemble it. Just burnishing the side edges of my card, just makes such a difference with how far that will actually bend in and how it will sit. And these cards are pretty fun too, because like, you know how you normally just pop a card up on, you know, display it? These will sit up nicely as well. So it's just something different to sit on the mantelpiece. Cool. So now we get to the fun part, guys. So I'm just going to pop those aside. So this is one of my pieces of white cardstock where I've taken 5 inches wide by 5 1/4 inches in height. I'm going to take my stencil. Hooray! Now I am going to grab a bit of washi tape from up here. This is just some other branded washi tapes that I've got floating around. I'm just going to take a piece of washi. I'm going to fold it back on itself, stick it to my work surface underneath my piece of cardstock, just so that that will kind of hold in place. So it's not going to go anywhere. I'm then going to get my stencil and I'm going to line it up over the top of my piece of cardstock that I'm going to stencil onto. And once I've kind of found a good spot for it, it's not always, you might always get a little bit of a bit off the corner. That's totally fine. Stencils are backgrounds. They're, you know, they can go wherever. But I'll find what I think is the perfect spot for it at the moment. I'm just going to grab a bit of washi tape. And I'm just going to get that to hold just the top and bottom of my stencil in place so that it doesn't wiggle around and move, and I've got a little bit of freedom with where I go with my hands and what I'm doing while we're stenciling. So I'm going to get my 2 ink colours, and I'm going to do this with my daubers so that I don't mix and match. They look a bit similar colour on screen at the moment, but I promise you they are very different. I see a lot of people that put you know, little labels on the side of their daubers just so that they can keep track of which colour they belong to. So that's why I threw 2 into the pack. We do have more daubers available in the store if you're needing to purchase more and start a collection. It gets a bit addictive. And we do have access to a holder for them. So it's like a little plastic container that has little slots in it for each of your daubers. So you can pop those in, you can label the lid, and that way you kind of know which one you're going for as you jump in. So I'll try and pop a link to that up on the store a bit later today. I don't physically have any in the studio store at the moment. So yeah, that's that. So let's get on to some stenciling. So I'm just going to take my sponge dauber, I'm going to pop it on my finger, and it just gives me a little bit of freedom. You can use it like this if you wish, and you know, dab away this way. I like to be like finger control, makes more sense to me. It's up to you. Play around, see how you go, see what works best. So I'm just going to give it a couple of taps on the ink pad. Doesn't matter if you've got the ink cube or the bigger ink pad, just a couple of taps. And then I'm going to find a section of my cardstock where I want to work. And I'm just going to start in the top left corner because it just is a good place for me to start. I'm just going to find one of the bigger stars and just do a couple of dabs. And you'll see that it comes out quite speckled, and that's because of the foam top on the sponge dauber. But if you tap, and you can keep tapping to get more intensity, so you've got a little bit of control over it like that. Now the Gina K inks are fantastic at blending and spreading. So as they dry, they will actually kind of darken up a little bit. so you don't need to go too heavy-handed on it. But see how we've got all the rest of this ink sitting on top of this kind of film of the stencil? I can now use that to blend in, and rather than getting a speckled effect, I'm going to get a much smoother effect. So I'm just going to dab, dab, dab over here, just so you can see I've got not much left on my ink dabber at all. And then I'm just going to go back to where we've got all that excess on there. I'm going to just go in circles. So I've just gently going along, and you'll start to see as you spread the ink, and as the ink starts to run out, I've got just a little bit, just hints of pink on my paper there. If I undo this, and I can do this because I've got my tape at the bottom, so I know I'm not going to unstick it. If I undo that so that you can see, I've got muck underneath there. It's quite dark in the middle, and because I've been blending, it's smoothed it all out, and it's made a much nicer effect. So it's not so spotty, but that's a good place to start, to dab it on into the place where you're going to end up with it being the darkest, and then blending it out. So the ink has really smoothed out, and you can see how faint it's kind of getting off towards the side. So I'm just going to pop my stencil back onto the page, and I'm just going to keep blending this a little bit further. The ink goes a really long way, and with the technique that I did in the example card, I've actually, you can possibly see in places like here, I've actually blended the pink out, and then I've blended the purple in. So that'll give you like a nice little ombre effect on certain sections, and it means it's not just purple star, pink star, pink star. Like you kind of start to get a little bit of a blend going on, and it just adds a little bit of interest. So I'm just going to grab a little bit more pink because I want to darken up a couple that are over here, and you can just choose little areas where you go, oh, I just want that one to be a little bit darker and the others to be a little bit lighter. So you can get a little bit of contrast through your different blending. Sharon, yes, the ink does smooth out really nicely. Other than using like a Tim Holtz oxide ink, I don't think I've had inks that blend this smoothly before. They're actually really lovely. So now that I've done a bit of pink blending up in that top left corner, I'm just going to come down in this bottom section here, and I'm just going to do a tiny little bit of sponging in the bottom here. Do a little light blending up this way, and then I'm just going to do a little section up here in the top right, and I'm going to leave some gaps. Now it's up to you. You can go one color all the way over, and just play with different, darker and lighter versions. So if you wanted to do an all pink card, that's totally fine. Just use your pink dauber and go to town. I'm going to do a bit of a mix up because obviously we can all figure out how that's going to look if you go all pink all over. So that's where I'm at the moment, but I've got these nice gaps in between, and I'm going to come back in and I'm going to fill those in with our lilac, wild lilac rather. So again, oops, bear in mind this one is a slightly darker, deeper color, so try not to go too heavy too soon when you start, but it's exactly the same kind of technique. Dab, 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 and then round circles, blending it in. Come down in the bottom corner here, fill in that bit that I know is a gap, blending a little bit across into where the pink is. Now going around in circles like this does help to clean up your stencil a little bit as well. Saves wasting your ink that you're just going to wipe off a little bit later anyway. And just so that you don't go too crazy and start tearing up your foam dauber, they do wear out, and they are a consumable item. You will need to replace them quite regularly. They're not going to last ultra long, but you don't need to have very heavy pressure on this. It's just a really light brush over. So the lighter you are with your touch, the longer your sponge daubers are going to last. But I don't want anyone thinking that these tiny little items that really don't cost a lot per item are going to last forever. So I'm just going to go back in and darken up just a couple of these stars in certain spots just for a little bit of contrast. Okie dokie. Crunch. So I'll peel that off. I've got this beautiful little kind of ombre star background effect going on there. Now I'm just going to pull this little piece of card up, and I'm going to do another panel. I'm going to do one almost exactly the same as what I just did then. Start with my pink. Again, if I was going to be using different colours at the moment, I would grab my little tidy towel, give this a wipe off, and see how you can see this has now started to smudge it onto my cardstock. I'm quite happy with that because I'm going to go over it anyway. But if you didn't have cardstock under it, just give it a wipe and it'll clean right off. You can take it to the kitchen sink and run it under water and give it a bit of a really good rub if you want to kind of clean it as good as possible. But for this, no major big deal at the moment. I am going to put quite a bit of pink in my stars. And I'm going to go right across the top. And you could have done this with your initial one. It's totally fine. I'm get quite heavy with my ink at the top and then start to blend it in the middle. And then I'll come at it from the bottom with some of the purple. Now, obviously the pink being the lighter colour, it needs a little bit further down the page because the purple will override it quite a bit. Crash bang. Okay. I'm going to get my purple, wild lilac it is. I'm going to go from the bottom. I've got to be careful with this bit because I've actually got my washi tape over the stencil because I put my paper in a different spot. Just want to make sure I get all those stars fully covered. And then we're going to blend up. And I'm going quite heavy with this one because what I'm going to do after this is layer some more blended colour over the top of these stencils. And you can do this either way. You can do it this way, or you can do the stenciling after you've done the main colouring and the main ink blending. So if I peel this off and we have a little bit of a look, got a little bit of an ombre pink at the top down to the purple at the bottom. So I'm happy with that there at the moment. I'm just going to cover up my ink pads. Take that piece of paper off just for the moment because I'm going to get, now this is the Gina K Designs Tidy Towel. It is for all intents and purposes a chamois. So it will completely dry out and go hard and crusty and feel like cardboard. But it is so good at just giving your space a bit of a wipe down. Clean off all that ink, clean off your stencils, clean off your stamps, and it is much nicer on the environment than the 3 billion baby wipes that I normally use during my crafting. So it's a really good option for those of you who want to look after the environment, have something that's a little bit more reusable, and also not have to keep running to the sink every time you use an item in your craft room. So I can take my washi off. Give this just a little bit more of just a bit of a clean. I've got pink ink all over the place now. Pop that down there. Okay, now I'm going to take two other tools. Well, they're two of the same tools, but you'll get my drift. So these are blending brushes. So some of you might use them to do your makeup in the morning. I don't do makeup very often. But these are nice, soft, fine bristles, and they're quite firmly packed together. And they act in a very similar way as the sponge dauber, except they give a really smooth finish. So if you were to take your sponge dauber, and I'll grab a piece of scrap cardstock. I'm just going to grab just a little bit of plain white paper to pop underneath just to protect my workspace just a little bit. If I was to try ink blending with my sponge dauber, you're going to start off the page and you're going to do circular motions and then come onto the page, and it's going to start to drop the ink. And if you do just little circles, just go round and round and round and round and round. And then as you want to blend it off, you obviously need less and less ink on your cardstock. But it takes a lot, even with really good inks like Gina's and really good cardstock, which for blending, the Kaisercraft cardstock is not amazing. But if you're using Gina's layering white cardstock, it is quite good. It's kind of purpose made. It's very smooth cardstock, and it gives you a very nice finish, even if you're using sponge daubers. And so I can get a little bit of an effect using that in a bit of a kind of, if I take, and I'll take the right one, I've got this one labelled for reds and pinks at the moment. If I take one of these blending brushes and just pop a fair bit of ink on that, not on my fingers, start off the page again. You can see that I can start to get a lot more ink and colour on really fast. But I can also get a much smoother blend, and again, better cardstock, better quality cardstock for blending purposes, gives you a much better finish overall. So I can get a fairly big section done, but I can also go really easily from a very light colour to a really dark colour. So they're the kind of two. See how it's quite splotchy, and this one much smoother. So I'm going to use these blending brushes. We're about to get a bunch in stock, so you'll find them go up on the website store very soon. But I just wanted to show you the difference between when you might use a sponge dauber versus when you might use a blending brush. So I'll just put my daubers off to the side because otherwise they're going to mark up things. And I'm just going to take this piece of cardstock that I had done the stenciling on already, and I'm just going to blend over the top. Actually, I'm going to pop that bit of washi under there to kind of hold this in place. It's going to add to my blending. So I'm going to blend over the top. So this is kind of going to give it a bit of a background to the background to the stenciling. So you can do this either way. You can do the stenciling first and then come in with your blending brush or your sponge dauber, or you can start with an ink blended panel and then stencil over the top of it. So it just depends on the effect that you're going for. I'm not going for anything too fancy or perfect today, just kind of showing you what can be achieved. And I'm going to leave a little bit of not quite white space in the middle, but I'm going to leave it a little bit more open and less heavy on the ink. I'm going to flip my page around because I'm right-handed and this just works better for me. I'm going to swap to my greens and blues, which purple kind of falls in that until I get a dedicated purple blending brush. And then I'm going to come in at this end and give it some from that side. Now, if you were using lighter colours for your background and you wanted to play with, colour blending things, you could do something like a yellow background and then put some blue stenciling over the top of it, and you'll end up with the yellow and the blue inks mixing a little bit, and you'll get a bit of a green contrast in there. So there's all kinds of things that you can start playing around with colour options, and when you know what colours go with what and how things mix, you can come up with some really, really fantastic combinations. So I've gone a bit patchy with this one, been a little bit too chatty, not concentrating so much on my blending. But as you can see, pretty quick, pretty easy, and you can get a really nice smooth airbrushed kind of look. The more you practice, the better you get. Okay, ta-da! So that's just my second option for my panel for today. I'm just going to whip my little blending bits out of the way. Just going to give that one a little bit of drying time. So I'm just going to come back down and I'm going to take the panel that I've got here. Now, so this is the plainer one that I started with. I'm going to grab my trimmer, brush bang. And I'm going to make sure, first of all, that I've got the section that's 5 inches wide along here. So I need the height at the 5 1/4. And I'm going to cut 2 panels that are 1 7/8 wide. That's the first one. I'm just going to slide this over and make the second one follow on. You don't have to, but if you were replacing this with patterned paper, for example, then you may want to keep the pattern going and have it, when you open the gate, it's, it will close the gate, it kind of follows on. But, for this, it's not particularly important. We're going to cover the middle of it anyway with our belly band and things. So you'll have your 2 pieces that are 1 7/8, and then you'll have this other little piece here, which is 1 1/4 wide, and you're just going to trim that down to 4 inches long. So you're just going to take a tiny little block off the end, and this is to decorate our belly band. Just in case you were wondering, just a random little piece that we're going to cut. So I'm going to do the same with my my other panel. So we're going 1 7/8. This is, and another 1 7/8. And with my section that is 1 1/4 wide, what are we going down to? 4. Now, I'm just going to cut a little bit off that end, just because I want this blending to be relatively even. Just cutting that down to 4 so that I wasn't cutting off all of one colour on one end, just getting back to that. So it's going to look cute, super cute. Awesome. So thank you, bye-bye, trimmer. So now we can start putting our bits and pieces together. I'm going to pop those ones aside because I've obviously done a card with those ones in it earlier. And I'm going to take my gatefold card. I'm going to get my my inside panel, and I'm actually going to, I want to put I need to get my, let's choose sentiments for the outside first, and then I'll probably know what I want to put stamp-wise on the inside. So now I said to you guys I'll try and do one with just the tickets and some of the stripped sentiments. Some of these ones. What if we take something up here that says "You are so kind"? You are so kind, stay true to you. What else could we do? Stay true to you, I've got your back. That's a nice one. I'm going to give this a go. So I'm going to fussy cut these because they're a little bit of a pain in the rear end to put through on my trimmer. Super excited just thinking about the white border that's been put around these and how how much of a pain it is with getting borders put around things when you're doing cutout things. I watched a new release this morning. Cricut, who make our maker machines, they've just announced they're in beta test mode at the moment for an item that will go into their software that allows you to do a border around. It's called offset. So basically they're taking whatever the outside of your image is, they're expanding that and putting an even size border all the way around the outside. And it may not mean much to you guys, but I got very excited this morning and I'm pretty pumped. They haven't released a date when they're going to release it to us yet, so it's kind of a big, massive tease. But it is just going to make things so good. So good. And I think it's going to enable me to make a lot more things for you guys that are going to be so good to have. So good. I'm very excited about it. I don't sound particularly excited, but I don't know. I wasn't very awake this morning, and when that came on, I was like, that's just made my day. Okay, back to the project. So I'm just going to trim just a little bit off this white border, just so that they all kind of sort of match. And I'm going to cut down, cut a little flag end into this little sentiment. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off here. So to cut your flag, I find it best to just cut your little center line into where you want the flag to go to, and then just cut from the corner to that little center and the other corner to the little center. Then you've got your perfect little flag. It's pretty good, hey? Okay. So now that I've got that component sort of sussed, I can get a bit of a measurement for how it's going to sit. And if I want to cut a slightly bigger piece of cardboard, which I think I do, just to make it stand out a little bit from the belly band. Otherwise, I could trim down the belly band and keep that quite small. So I'm going to grab, it's my trusty ruler. I'm going to have a look at that. So by the time I've laid that out and I want a little bit of an extra border top and bottom, probably want to cut about 2 1/4 inches. And these pieces are 2 1/4, so we probably want to go 2 1/2. So 2 1/2 by 2 1/4 if you're wanting to do something along this line. If you're wanting to go for a belly band more in this shape with the bigger block and the other bit underneath it, that one that I made and measured before is 3 inches by 2 1/4. So the 3 inches by 2 1/4, and the smaller one, I've got so much stuff on my desk right now. We are going to go 2 1/2 by 2 1/4. So I've got at least 2 1/4 here, and 2 1/2 this way. Sweet. Hopefully that helps you out, Sharon. Margaret, how exciting is the Cricut update? I'm very excited. Too excited. Okay, so now I'm going to grab my glue pen. Now I keep it stored mostly tip down. It keeps the glue in the bottom of the pen and means that it's kind of ready for me to jump in and use at a second's notice. I'm going to plonk a bit of, oops, just a generous amount of glue onto that. I'm going to put this one fairly close to the top. I'm going to give it an even border top and sides so that it's centered. And this one I'm going to pop. Have I done that sideways? Yep. This is why we can't have nice things, Tangy. Just going to use my tidy towel to rub that glue off and then hope that I don't totally stuff things when I put it back on. So horizontal might work better. It will have worked the other way, it just wasn't the way I'd planned to lay it out. Oops. All right. This makes more sense. So there's a little bit of a border around the sides. And then with my flag going down here, I'm going to leave a pretty generous gap down the middle. And that's because I'm going to get my bling on. I'm going to go crazy on the bling in the middle. Come on, wet glue. There we go. And I've got these glue pens did go out of stock for a little moment on the store, but they are coming back in this week. So for those of you who have the Crafternoon box and you want to order other things from the store, but you'd like to not pay some shipping, you can order anything from the store anytime. You can pop the code NEXTBOX, all one word, so NEXTBOX. Pop that in the coupon code at the end, or discount code. It'll take the shipping off, and it means that as soon as those items are available to ship and your next Crafternoon box is ready to ship, they'll go together. Okay. All right, that's good. Rescued that. I'll put the rhinestones on in just a moment. I'm going to, now that I know what I'm saying on the front of my card, let's celebrate. What would we say? If we're saying stay true to you, I've got your back. I'm going to put good times together. Good times together, and this little sparkly stars kind of thing. I'm going to put that good times together and a bit of a shush. There we go. Acrylic blocks. Am I going to fit? Yeah, I'll fit on there. Just going to have to do it a little bit crooked. So hopefully we're not off camera. That's good. So these will kind of fit roughly in under there, and pop that little flourish in there. I know this going off and not having my block aligned with my words will drive a few of you crazy, but I'm okay with it. Don't forget to condition your stamps before you use them for the first time. So for me, I'm just using the tidy towel, giving them all a good rub just to get any of the sticky residue off from manufacturing, because they manufacture them with the two acetate sheets either side of them, and there's like the photopolymer gel is in the middle of the two sheets, and then they project light through it, and where the black parts of the printing is on the acetate, that stops the light from getting through, and so the section that around it is hardened, so this section hardens and the rest of it doesn't set, so then they wash away the outside bit. So what you'll find is that where it's been stuck to this particular sheet and the backing sheet when they do it has this residue on it that just means that it just doesn't take ink very well for the first couple of times until you've really conditioned it. So just give them a bit of a rub, it'll get all the residue off, and then we'll stamp a few goes. You can also use a microfiber cloth or a baby wipe or whatever you've got handy. Bring back my little bit of scrap paper. I am going to, it's purple wild lilac this month, so I'm going to use this on my inside greeting. So you can see how the ink, you may not be able to see that from there, but you'll see the ink will pool in little spots, and that means your ink, your stamp is not conditioned properly yet. So when I stamp that, it's going to get quite, oops, just upend that on it's going to get quite spotty. So it still needs a few more stamps and a few more rubs with a cloth or some other implement. But the more you use your stamps, the better it'll become. Or you can just constantly clean them and clean them and clean them until they eventually come good. So I'm not going to hassle too much today. I just want to get this stamped and get you guys on your way. Hopefully you've all got a good Saturday evening planned now that we're kind of getting out of COVID over here in Australia, at least. Starting to get those injections and vaccines done. Give my work surface just a little bit of a clean down. All right, so I think I've practiced that enough now. I'm going to take my card that I'm going to put on the inside. Get up there. Give that a good inking up. Find a decent spot somewhere in the middle for me. Give it a little push. Not bad. Yeah, I think we're still a fair way down the list for getting vaccinations. But, you know, more than happy for those who need it most to be getting it first. That is our healthcare workers and our elderly and people with underlying health conditions that really can't afford to get exposed to this virus. I'll clean that more later. Okay, so I'm just going to take this panel and I'm going to pop it inside my card. So again, I'm still on the liquid glue train this week. It works, it holds things down. It's good. These are both thick cards that can kind of cope with this. It's when we're using the lighter weight patterned papers that liquid glue is just really not a great idea for it. Just because it can, you know, too much can warp it. And it doesn't look quite as pretty. How are we going over in Facebook land? Oh, Linda says it's raining over their side as well. Eastern suburbs are getting a bit of rain. Got to say, we haven't had rain for a few weeks, maybe a week and a half. I don't know. It feels like it's been a long time because we've had hot weather. And that's not nice in Melbourne. Okay, so before I go any further with this, I'm going to attach the stenciled panels that we've done. Let's get a different view back on my screen. So again, just liquid glue on the backs. You've got to, does everybody else make sound effects when they do glue? Just me? Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to pop that fairly evenly on there and give it a push down. I mean, this is the time where if you want to mix and match and flip the orientation of your stencil panels, you certainly could. For example, if I wanted this one to go this way, just for a bit of something different. In fact, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be a rebel. Guys, before we go today, and I know she's not with us this afternoon because she's done a live this morning and had a big couple of days. Can we all say a massive happy birthday to our good friend Carrie for yesterday, Australian time. Yesterday was Carrie's birthday. So happy birthday, Carrie. Excellent. So now you've got your panels on, we'll start to fit the belly band. So for this, you just need to pop it around the back of your card. Now you don't want it to end up too tight. So when you glue this piece down, you don't want it to be like, oh, I'm making it as tight as I can because I never want you to open it. Just let it touch loosely and glue that down. So I just fold that over, get a bit of an idea of where I'm going to be going. Squeeze a little bit of if it wants to come out. A little bit of liquid glue. And then pop that down. I'm just going to get one of my bigger blocks. Just going to get that to sit on there for a sec. Tony, you love the wild lilac. I love the wild. This ink color from Gina K is so good. And it's got, have I got it here? This is the real deal Gina K wild lilac cardstock. Isn't it beautiful? Just such a rich purple color. and I know Miss Carrie loves purple, so it's very, very coincidental, but I accidentally did it on purpose that we did the March box in purple for Carrie's birthday. I'm going to run with that. But yeah, what a beautiful colour, that purple. Pop that away. Alrighty. So now that that's probably set enough, you'll note that you can slide that up and down your card. So now you can take your greeting block, whatever you've decided to do with it. I'm just going to grab my corner rounder and I'm going to round off these edges just for something different. Give it a little bit of shape. I've got these in the shop as well, guys, if you're looking for these. They not only do the, this is the 10mm, I think, corner rounds. It also does, on the opposite side, it's got the inverted corner. So if you wanted like a thumb tab, or you wanted to do like this ticket stub that's got the corner cutouts in it, this is your guy. It'll do your round corners and it'll do your inverted ones. So they're in the store, just in case you're wondering where they come from. Alrighty, let's get back to this project, Tangy. Rabble, rabble, rabble. How long have we been going for today? Oh, it's over an hour. Okay, time for me to shut up. Alright, so I'm just going to position this. I know that roughly it's going to come out about halfway through the panels. Squeeze glue. So I'm just going to put a generous amount of glue on there, just because this will be an item that gets a lot of wear and tear and, you know, up and down. So you want to make sure they're fairly strong. Pop that there. Make sure it's straight, centered. How good is all that pink and purple? It's a lot better than all the pink, that's for sure. I'm much happier with purple than I am with pink. I'm very much a blue colour person. And I'm just going to grab some of these little rhinestones just to finish it off. I feel like having the week off from doing tutorials last week, I've kind of lost my way. I'm a bit kind of yammer ramble today. Anyway, stick a couple of these little guys on and pop a big one in the middle. And pop a couple of medium ones. Oops, either side. You'll notice I haven't pushed these down yet because I'll still mess around with getting them in just the right position. And then a couple of teeny tinies on the end. Beautiful. Look at that. Who says I can't do bling well? Alrighty, are they even? Kind of hard with the angle of that camera to see where things are. I'm just going to bring them down so I can make sure they're lined up relatively evenly. Oops. You're good. You're good. So good. So concentrating when I do little tiny finicky things like that. Excellent. So that's the card. So it's a gatefold with a belly band and some cute little stamping in the middle. So I hope you guys have had a really fun time making that one. Don't forget to post photos of your finished works. I love to see what you guys are creating, even if it's not what we made in the tutorial. Show everybody what you're making. Give us some inspiration. This isn't the only right way to use these materials. So yeah, that would be really lovely to see all your creations. So that's that lovely little guy for today. Now what I want to do is do a quick little sneak peek of what we're going to do next week, so that you'll all get excited. Next week we are doing, if you've had a read of the bits and bobs in your kits, we're going to make a set of gift cards and a little box to go in. So think of it like a pack of playing cards. We're just using pattern paper and cardstock. We've got these cute little you know, sentiments that we can use. We've got these lovely blocks, and I've just made a little stack of 4 little note cards. So these are a perfect thing to just glue onto the top or stick onto the top of a little gift, but they're also like a little gift of their own. So you can make, you know, just a set of 4 little cards. You could probably cram 5 or 6 in there if you really squeeze them hard into this little section. But also, this is a little gift on its own. Like, how cute is it to just, you know, give that to somebody? You might need a little bit of washi tape or a little seal or something to hold that lid down. But then, yeah, that's just such a nice little gift on its own to give to someone. And if you've got lots of nice little sayings on the cards, which there's plenty in those paper rose sentiments, all kinds of different, you know, sayings and thoughts and just little cute little snippets. So that's what we're going to be making next week. So join me again next Saturday at 2 o'clock Australian Daylight Savings Time in the eastern states for that. And the other thing I was going to let you know before we go is the colour that we're going to base things around for May. Now, May, of course, we've got Mother's Day in there, so there is going to be a little bit of a floral theme to it. There's an amazing stamp set that I've got. It's on pre-order, so it should be here later this month, and then I'll have it ready for the launch. And we're obviously going to be able to coordinate this back in with the pink and with the, so Passionate Pink and with Wild Lilac and with Craft. So these are the colours that we've got in the kit so far. So January, if I do it, let's do it in chronological order. So January, February, March, these are the colours that you've gotten so far. So we're going to add to this, and we're going to add Apple Mint. So this colour is so beautiful. So it's a really lovely green that will pair really well in sort of floral type items. So obviously we've got, you know, the natural brown, the Craft for foliage with leaves, and then some pink and purple flowers that we're going to be able to incorporate in there. So Apple Mint is going to be the colour. They're already on order, and thankfully they are, because the lovely Miss Gina K is moving warehouses, which we only found out about after I'd placed my order, and about 3 days after they said, guess what, we're closing down until the 1st of April because we're moving. So something in the stars aligned, because all of our items for May are already ordered and on their way. So we are not having to wait and get delayed and all of that sort of things, because March was a really hard box to get out, and it absolutely stressed me out, and it concerned me, and I worried that I was not providing good customer service by getting the boxes out to everybody really late. So I had to take action, and my action was to pre-order things for May and June. Now, I'm not telling you about June just yet, but the items for those are already planned, ordered, and on their way. So there won't be further delays, and I'll keep trying to keep ahead. So yeah, so that is all from me for today. So I hope you have loved making your little cards. This one hasn't even got its belly band on. Let's do this. It's been so fun to be back at the desk again, and sharing some craft time with you all. So for anyone who's watching later down the track, thank you for joining us again. So our 2 little cards, I'll pop some photos up on the Facebook page a bit later once I've taken some good shots of them, and we will share all your works. I'd love to see what you've come up with. You may have used completely different colours out of your kit, and that's totally fine. But it'd just be really lovely to share your work with people, even if you've made a completely different project. It's all good. We all just want to kind of, see what you're doing. But anyway, I'm going to go and enjoy the rain, and I'll see you all again next weekend. Thanks for joining me. Bye.